What do you think?
I love it. You're great. Hey, you know what? Let's just escort you to the press section, shall we?
So, my adventures with Superman. Personally, I think this is probably the better episode of the entire series so far, anyway, to be very fair. I think when it comes to like the overall like look of the show, honestly, I'm not entirely a fan of it. Like, I like the art style, sure, but I think the saturation, I don't know, something about it just feels very gray. I can't put my finger on it, but it just looks gray to me. Also, just to really point this part out, because I feel like no one else has addressed it when it comes to people reviewing this show, why is it that like whenever the animation does not like focus on action, it looks like Windows PowerPoints? It looks just very lazily done and half finished whenever they're not focused on the more dynamic shots and scenes. It's kind of bothering me. Like, I don't know if they need to use certain palettes when it comes to like the animation and the storyboarding, but something about it just doesn't look quite right to me. Now let's get into the story of the episode. I like the fact that Lois Lane is actually, you know, showcasing a lot of her skills as a journalist, or at least a future journalist and reporter when it comes to her role in the story. Like, she's a lot more intelligent than other versions of Lois, you know, able to just figure out the identity, unlike how the common trope is, at least when it comes to animation and live action. In this case, like, she figures it out, but she does it on her own without it being fed to her by any external or internal means. She's just able to figure it out because she's just that intelligent. That they use her intelligence very well in that sense. And of course, making the obvious conclusion with that, you know, it's impossible to not be able to tell Clark and Superman apart from their glasses, you know, which makes sense. It makes sense. I have been slowly not liking Jimmy Olsen in this show, not just because Jermaine Olsen here is just a giant piece of nothing when it comes to his role in the story, but it's more because, personally, I don't like how they're playing his role, at least like his whole arc. You know, him being like the jealous, insecure third wheel when it comes to Clark and Lois. Honestly, I think that type of story is like really just tropey and honestly unnecessary when it comes to Superman media. Like, at the end of the day, why would he really care about that whole thing? Like, unless you're gonna pull like the rug up under us and being like, oh, he's in love with Lois too. And if that's the case, then honestly, no. Because we know how that's gonna end. We know. There's no need to play around with it. We know. Besides that, I think, again, Jimmy just doesn't need to have this type of character arc. You know, he doesn't need to do that. Like, he's been cock blocking heavy when it comes to Clark and Lois, and it's honestly been a little bit just annoying as all hell. Because again, like I said, it's unnecessary for his character. It makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like, I never known Jimmy to be that type of character. You know what I mean? And almost any versions of Jimmy Olsen I've seen, as far as I'm able to see personally, because it feels whatever to me. But to get into the like Amazo stuff, or at least Parasite made by Amazo, I think it's weird. They're doing something different. It's okay, I guess. I don't care. The Parasite stuff, like, at least as far as like a antagonist for this arc, or at least this episode, personally, he's a mustache twirling villain, pretty much. So it's not really anything too crazy. You know, with other characters, you can get away with them being evil for the sake of being evil. But this one, I'm just like, no. There's just flatter than I don't know. It's just flat. Like, there's no depth to him at all. It's just kind of there. Yeah, man, at the end of the day, yeah, he just wants to have a grudge with Superman, you know, even though it wasn't built up to. And I think that's the problem when it comes to like these episodic storytelling. It's hard to buy a lot of the villain's grudges when it comes to Superman and his rogues gallery, when most of the stories play out very episodically. Like, you could watch one without needing to watch the other for the majority of the time. And, you know, it could go good and bad. And this is the instance where I'm like, no. If we would have saw him in the background, like, you know, recording or having like drones record what Superman was doing as far as like his superheroics, I would have been more forgiving when it comes to his grudge against him. But it feel like it just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like it was just a fast way to get them to fight each other, honestly. But at the end of the day, it's not something that's like destroying my love for this show so far. And like I said, I don't hate the show personally. I'm just looking at it more objectively, I guess. At least as far as like Superman. Like when it comes to Superman, he's like one of my favorite characters. So like you really gotta wow me with what I'm seeing on screen. If I'm not wowed, then like I don't know. And so far, especially with this episode, it's more of an interest I have for this one than the previous episodes or batch of episodes we've been receiving, in my opinion anyway. So in that vein, I could say that, you know, it was a good episode. If I had to give it like a solid like vein ranking, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10 out of enjoyment this week. So not bad at all. I know I'm a little late on this one, by the way. I've been yeah, losing track of time, honestly. But other than that, yeah. You guys have a good day. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. I know this was like a shorter video, but that's all I had to say about it. See y'all later. Peace.